Good evening. I call this meeting of the Duncanville Independent School District to order. Let the record show a quorum of board trustees is present and that the meeting has been duly called and that the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Good evening. Our mission in Duncanville ISD is to engage, equip, and empower all scholars to achieve their unique potential. We'll move into our opening ceremonies. Trustee Vera Cruz will lead us in a prayer.
Thank you, President Neely. Please join me for a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to meet together tonight. We come united to be a reflection of your love and peace. Breathe life into our discussions and decisions tonight, and help us to be a team of leaders, educators, and trustees that have love and respect at its heart. We trust your way is the best way. Lord, I speak a blessing for those attending tonight and involved in the presentations and those behind the scenes. I pray a blessing over this meeting, that it will be done in excellence in your mighty name. Amen.
Trustee Fahey now will lead us in the pledge. Jesus.
As we rise for our pledges, let's keep in mind the tragedy, the event of 9/11, and keep those lost souls and that horrible incident forever in our hearts and minds. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Please be seated.
We will now move on to the superintendent's report, and I'll turn the meeting over to Dr. Smith.
Thank you, President McNeely, board members and guests. Good to have you this evening. Have the following items that I want to share with you on the superintendent's report. I do want to formally, know Trustee Fahey referenced 9/11, but I want to piggyback on her, and I want to just formally ask everyone if they could join me in a moment of silence in remembrance of September 11th and the tragic events that took place that day and the individuals that lost their lives. So just a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Absolutely. Okay, next slide, please, as we continue on with the superintendent's report. About a couple of weeks ago, I met with the Encore leadership team, and they were looking for opportunities to partner with Duncanville ISD, and just want to report to the board and others that we are excited about the new partnership we have. Encore and their leadership team will be engaging in several presentations and events at several elementary schools throughout our district. They're going to be working with students so they can learn the impact that electricity has on everyday lives, the dangers of power lines and other outdoor utility equipment, and then storm and safety and preparation tips. And so they are already organizing events and with our principals, and I've seen videos and examples of the work that they do when I met with the leadership team. I think this is going to be an awesome partnership, and it's going to be a good education for our students, and we'll be bringing reports back to you all as the events take place. But we're really excited about what our students are going to be learning, and we're excited about the partnership with Encore. The next item, as you know, I always say everything rises and falls with the leader, and leadership is important. And the leadership team and I went through a leadership retreat on last week, and we worked through what we felt were our top priorities These priorities are all aligned within our strategic plan and the work that we're doing in the district. And so the number one priority over the next 18 months is we think strategically about what are those top areas, the top initiatives that we need to be mindful of and have a plan of action for over the next 18 months. And the first one is recruiting, equipping, and retaining high-quality staff. Obviously, it is so vitally important to be able to maintain high-quality staff in order to do the work that we know is required and necessary for our students. And so we're building action steps and plans centered around that particular priority. The next priority is student academic achievement. We've provided several presentations to you board members over the last several months about the new accountability system, the new STAR assessment, and all of those items that will be coming down at the end of this month, the 26th and the 28th of this month. And so this is going to be an opportunity for us here in Duncanville to be able to have a benchmark data year and use that data to sharpen our pencils, so to speak, and get ourselves and our students prepared to really pursue what we know is going to be a heavy lift with all of the changes at the state level. But as a team, we know that focusing on what we can control for our students is our top priority, and that's why this item will continue to be a driving force behind all of our efforts each and every day. The third priority over the next 18 months is just to work on a balanced budget. We still, of course, don't have any funding from the state. Obviously, all of the attention at this point in time is on the hearings with the Attorney General Paxton. And so whenever that process is completed, we're hoping that at some point the focus can then shift back to funding public schools adequately. Until that time comes, we're consistently working on our budget, working on building a plan that will allow us to be in the best position possible in a very difficult circumstance at the state level as we move forward over the next 18 months, implementing this current year's budget, but then also in January beginning to transition for the 24-25 school year. And then number 4 is, of course, passing a bond. We have a bond election on November 7th, and all of the activities that are going on in the district and in the community. I've had several meetings throughout the last several weeks and will continue to have meetings that are centered around educating all of our stakeholders on just what the bond program is and what we will accomplish if we're fortunate enough to pass the bond. There are so many other areas that are important, but as you know, if you're doing everything, you're doing nothing. So prioritizing is so very critical. So the next 18 months, these 4 areas are going to be our focus, and of course, we'll be continuously reporting these items to the board as we move forward. The next item that I have for you is just an update or an acknowledgement on our National Gear Up Week. That is September 25th through the 29th. And you may remember a couple of years ago, we were so fortunate to be the recipient of this National Gear Up grant. It's a federal grant, and our district, along with 2 other districts in the Best Southwest, were awarded a little over $1 million for the next 7 years, and it's all dedicated toward working with a cohort of students to get them prepared for college. Gear Up is actually an acronym. I want to read for you what that acronym stands for. It is Gaining Early Awareness and Readiness for Undergraduate Programs. And so the program and the designated staff who really support the program, they will follow a cohort for the next 7 years, including their first year in college, which is 2028. And so the program is actually designed to have family nights for parents, college trips, financial literacy, career exploration, just to name a few. All the activities are centered around preparing these students for the best opportunity to get them ready for college, and then supporting them even in that first year of college, because we know how critical getting past that first year of college is. And so between Reed Middle School, Kennemer Middle School, and Byrd Middle School, we have a little over 1,000 students that are already being served by the Gear Up grant. And each middle school has a site coordinator, or the site coordinators, okay, they are, could you stand? I wanted to recognize the site coordinators. They are so instrumental in, keep standing, I want to recognize you. So, Ms. Clear at Kennemer Middle School, could you raise your hand? Thank you for all you do. Ms. Lewis at Reed Middle School, and Ms. Pickett at Byrd Middle School. And is Ms. Thomas, the project manager here? Can you stand, Ms. Thomas? Thank you. So these 4 young ladies are so critical. They're doing a great job getting us started, and they're really laying the foundation to get our students ready for college. So we appreciate you and everything you do. Thank you. The next item that I have is the naming ceremony honoring Mrs. Flo Judd. In 1977, Ms. Judd declared that she was here to stay, and she is a prophet. She has been here to stay. But she has an unyielding dedication to education. Anyone that knows her, have met her, you'll never forget her. She touches everyone that she meets in a positive way. And she's become a beloved figure here in Duncanville at the high school and in the community in general. And so in honor of her remarkable contributions, the library at Duncanville High School will proudly bear her name. Ms. Judd is an inspiration to all. Her life has been devoted to fostering learning, growth, and meaningful connections. And so on Tuesday, September 26, 2023, at 1:30, we'll have the naming ceremony where the Duncanville High School Library will officially become the Flo Judd Library. I'd like to have everyone out. Yes, please.
Just a moment, teensy moment of privilege. Flo Judd was a teacher when I was a student at Kimball High School. So talking about dedicated, she's touched all kinds of lives for a long time, and I just love her to pieces and hope you can be there.
Thank you. Thank you. We're really excited about it and looking forward to recognizing Ms. Judd and naming the library. Very well-deserved honor. The next item that I have is enrollment updates. Of course, each month as we come together, board, especially at this time of the year, I'd like to update you on our enrollment. Enrollment and attendance is critical for a number of reasons. Obviously, we need our students here in school so that they can learn. Attendance also is a driver for funding. And we are really doing well as we are a little over a month into the school year. We were projected to be at 11,842 students. And so we are a little over 99% in terms of meeting our projection. And so that is a very, very positive number for us, trending close toward 12,000, which is where we were before COVID. So you can see the trend continuously going up. I'm really excited about our early childhood and elementary enrollment numbers. Those numbers are at 99.7%, which is very high for our elementary students. In the past, we have been trending high on the middle school side, but lower on the elementary side, and we're starting to see that trend reverse now. And so that is what you want to see, more students coming in at those early elementary years. So we're going to continue to monitor our numbers. We've leveled our classrooms, and you all will hear about that later on in the agenda. But very excited to report to you that we're in good standing with our enrollment and attendance. I think we were at almost 92% as of last Friday from an attendance rate. So that's very good numbers at this stage in the year. That concludes the superintendent's report for this evening, and I'll turn it over back over to the board president.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. We will now move on to recognitions, and I'll turn the meeting over to Ms. Wallace.
All right, good evening, President McNeely, the Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. We are ready for donations. This month, I am pleased to report that we have received donations from Girls, Inc. of Metropolitan Dallas, Tom Kennedy, South Toyota, as well as Concord Church. Next slide, please. In addition to those donations that we have received, we also received donations totaling $8,154.70 that went to our staff in various forms during convocation. And so we are very proud to be able to curate items from our community and give it right back out to our teachers and staff during convocation. So thank you to our community members for their continued support. Are there any questions about the donations that are listed? All right. And I'll move into recognitions. At this time, I would like to invite Coach Square and Coach Reese to please join me up at the podium. So many of you guys, I'm sure you have seen them at the games, at so many other functions, but I'd like to introduce you all to our varsity cheer sponsor, Miss Antoinette Square, and to our JV cheer sponsor, Miss Erica Reese. And for almost every sport that we have here in Duncanville, as well as many special events for our staff, the Duncanville cheerleaders, they stand ready to cheer us on. And so tonight, we want to recognize them for all they do, as well as for their recent accomplishments. Our cheerleaders attended the 2023 SMU National Cheerleader Association Cheer Camp, and the cheerleaders brought home several awards. JV and varsity received a bid for NCAA National Cheer Competition. That's huge. Varsity earned Top Performance Award for their band chant. They were first place out of 12 teams. JV and varsity received All-American Cheerleader nominations. JV and varsity also earned Spirit Awards. Varsity has 7 All-American cheerleaders. Ladies, when I call your name, stand up so we can see you. Kirsten Brown, Amira Lassiter, Anaya Miller, Jaden Ferguson, Veronica Turner, Kiera Warren, and Megan Gardner. Congratulations, ladies. The cheer program also received a Herky Team Award, which is an award that is voted on by other teams for all-around camp leadership and skills. Man, this award, ooh, this really sounds good. This award affords them an opportunity, or it's an invite also for them to attend a competition in Hawaii. Whoa, okay. So that is an amazing accolade to just qualify for that. If you need any chaperones, let me know. So varsity also earned the Spirit and the Crowd Award. So we had varsity cheerleaders that were also selected, or a varsity cheerleader that was selected by NCA staff for a leadership award, and she was invited to try out for the NCA staff. So congratulations to Amira Lassiter. Stand up. You know what? Dr. Smith always says that everything rises and falls on leadership. He actually said it this evening. And so it is to be expected that our 2 coaches, they also received awards while they were at camp this summer. They received top coaching honors. And so congratulations, ladies. Coach Square, we have a couple of minutes. Would you like to share any insight that I may have missed about your team, your squads, both of them?
So I'm glad we're talking about leadership. Leadership is one of the forefronts of our cheer program. If you don't know, I'm a former Duncanville High School cheer alumni. So cheerleading in Duncanville is very passionate for me. And I had some great leadership that was before me. I cheered under Brenda Crabtree. And one of the things that I remember her telling us was, you guys are excellent cheerleaders, but I'm wondering, and I want to make sure I coach you guys on character and leadership skills. And at the time, I kind of thought, okay, leadership skills, what does that have to do with being a cheerleader? It wasn't until I became a coach. It wasn't until I became an adult. And I realized if you're coaching and you're giving your kids something, if you're giving your kids just coaching skills, but no character skills, no leadership skills, what are you coaching them? What are you doing for them? So I want to make sure that our program focuses on leadership skills. We have a leadership team this year. We have a team of leaders that were selected by the coaches. And those different leaders have different roles that they have to play within the program. And some of that is to kind of give them those skills so that when they do graduate from Duncanville High School, should they become whatever they decide they want to do, even if they don't want to cheer, at least we're giving them character skills. At least they're leaving the program with something that they can take with them in the workplace and in their personal lives. So if you are a part of the leadership team at Duncanville, could you please stand? Thank you, ladies.
And at this time, if I can invite our varsity cheerleaders to please join us on the stage and take a picture with our board president.
While they're coming to take their picture, I just wanted to say that cheerleaders, we can hear you guys from the press box. You are loud, you are great, you encourage and pump everybody up, but I can understand what you're saying and everything, even from the press box, so great job.
Outstanding. Let's give them a round of applause out there. And if our JV squad will go ahead and start making their way down. And parents and family members, check out our social media probably tomorrow, and you'll be able to see these lovely photos. All right. Congratulations to both of our cheer squads. While they're making their way back to their seat, if I could have Coach Ramsey please join me at the podium. Well, Coach Ramsey, welcome to Duncanville. I'd like to introduce you all to our head volleyball coach, Miss LaToya Ramsey. Coach Ramsey, congratulations on a stellar start here at Duncanville High School. It is my understanding, you got to correct me if I'm wrong, it is my understanding that the varsity team won the South Oak Cliff Invitational Tournament. All right. And did you guys, y'all placed third at the Duncanville Tournament of Champions? Okay. And your current record is 15-8, and district play, did it start on Friday?
It started on Friday.
Okay. So you know what? I know I'm not doing y'all any justice, so if you'll take a quick moment and share a little, I did tell her she's going to have a chance to talk, and if you'll share a little bit about your squad and what you're looking forward to, and just tell us a little glimpse into who you are as you join our Duncanville family.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, guys. I'm Coach Ramsey. This is my 17th year coaching and teaching. Super proud to be back at Duncanville ISD. It's actually where I started my career. My first teaching job was at Reed Middle School, which is kind of ironic. It's like full circle coming back as the head coach. I was a coach at that middle school under Lynn Evans. So I'm super excited to be back. I knew a lot of the athletes in the district because I coached them in select sports. So it was really comfortable coming back to Duncanville ISD, and I can say that they really made me feel like family, from the staff, the parents, and my athletes. These young ladies have been working, grinding it out since I stepped foot on Duncanville High School in June. We had tryouts on the 31st, and I can say that they have really bought into the process, and it's really different for them, things that they're doing. Even now, it's really different. The expectation is different. The standard is different. The standard is the standard. I tell them that all the time, and I talk to them a lot about being intentional on what they do on and off the court. We have 5 seniors. Please stand up for me, who are leading these Lady Wildcats. And I'm super, oh, Allie. Thank you. Thank you, girl. Really? But my 5 seniors are leading this squad to champions. I told them that my expectation is to win district. It's not just to come there and place there. We are driving and grinding it out to win district this season. That's the expectation. And they welcomed that with open arms. We've had a lot of long practices. This Saturday we had a really long practice. But they have been really working really hard, and I appreciate all the work that they've been doing. So please come out and support us. Tuesday we play at home against Waxahachie. Come to any home games. We'd love to see your faces there. Thank you, guys.
So if we can get the varsity,
Also, I would like I couldn't do this without my staff. Could you guys please stand up for me? They have really been helping me out since I got here. My varsity assistant, Rashay Gladney, my other assistant, Ashley Marsh, and Jakaya Brawley. Thank you.
and if we can grab a photo with our board president volleyball team, come on down. And Coach Ramsey, we have something in common. I taught at Reed Middle School, and guess what? Once a Panther, always a Panther. I'm glad you're back. Let's give them one more round of applause. Thank you, President McNeely and Board of Trustees.
No offense to our staff, but I knew our audience was a lot better looking than we usually have, so thank y'all. That concludes our opening ceremonies, and now the board will move into closed session. That means y'all can go. Okay, we're back from closed session. We don't have any action to take, so we'll move on in. We will now conduct a public hearing to allow the public participation discussion proposed tax rate. Presenter, Mr. Garrison. Get on here.
Good evening, President McNeely, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to discuss the tax rate hearing and the proposed tax rate adoption with you. We'll start, next slide, please. We'll start by looking at and comparing our certified taxable values that are prepared by Dallas County Appraisal District. And this is unusual. It's the same format that this was presented in last year. When you compare 22 to 23, you typically seeing huge jumps at that. And the reason for this, and that's indicated there at the bottom, is the $100,000 homestead exemption. So even though home values may have risen, the taxable value is significantly less on given the homestead exemption. So you see a small decrease there. Had that not been in there and it would stay, had it stayed at the $40,000, that $6.4 million number would, or $1 billion number would have been 7.2, 7.4. That's the impact of the $100,000 homestead exemption on our taxable values. Next slide, please. The tax rate's comprised of maintenance and operations as well as interest and sinking, and this slide will focus on the maintenance and operations tax rate. The tax rate's actually set by the House Bill 3, and then TEA determines that. And the big factor in determining that is the slide we saw previously, and that's why we started with those certified taxable values. We send those into TEA. TEA puts together a maximum compressed rate for every district in the state. Depending on how much tax growth you've seen, you can be compressed more or less depending on that. So they set that tax rate and send that to us after we send those values in. The maintenance and operations proposed tax rate without the TRE is just over 63 cents is what TEA sent us. Duncanville is blessed to have passed the TRE, and we get a little bit of extra, a few extra pennies at the vote of the citizens. And so that adding that a little over 12 cents brings us to a total proposed M&O rate of just over 76 cents. 0.7628 is the proposed maintenance and operation tax rate. I think one of the things to point out here, and we'll see some more comparisons in future slides, but that's a 17-cent drop in your tax rate from your M&O side. That's huge. That's as large as I've seen, and honestly, it's something I've ran over and over, and I was actually just talking to our financial advisor about how astounding that what you had seen before. Had we not had the additional compression, and the additional compression come from Senate Bill 2, where they used a lot of the excess collections at state level to offset that and bring that further down, is where that comes from. So in comparing that to last year, at that 93, just over 93 cents to the 76, again, 17% or 17-cent decrease. Next slide, please. This brings us to the interest and sinking portion of our tax rate. And this is the portion, of course, we use to pay back debt. And this is a good time to talk about not only this tax rate, but also a little bit about the potential impact of the bond that's going on the ballots November 7th. Last year's rate was 32 cents. The proposed rate is to stay the same at 32 cents this year. It's unchanged, and our debt payment's around $17 million. I'll say that so casually, $17 million debt payment. But we typically collect closer to $20 million, and there's another item on the agenda where that excess collection will be used to pay down principal. So essentially, it's like making an extra payment on your house or an extra payment on your car. So you're paying off your principal, you're using that excess to pay off debt. So not only are you reducing your principal amount and opening up capacity in your bond, you're also saving interest, and to the tune of about $1.1 million in savings by applying it that way, and that's why that defeasance is on there. And that we can do that just by leaving the rate where it is. And then by leaving the rate where it is, this is where the tax impact of the bond on November 7th, should be fortunate enough for that to pass, this is where that just over 4 cents, 4.85 cents is what we're predicting that rate would go to from 32 to 36.85, or 0.3685 is what that would go to. Next slide, please. So here's your side-by-side comparison of the 22-23 and the 23-24, where you can see the impact. Again, the INS rate staying the same, so you're looking at a 17-cent difference between the overall tax rate of $1.25 compared to just over $1.08. 13.6% decrease in the overall tax rate. We'll talk a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about here the average values and the effect, and then we'll get into that a little deeper on the next slide. But you can see that an interesting point in this slide is the average taxable value on a home is actually down. And we've not seen that. But again, this is all related to that additional, not only are we seeing tax compression, we're also seeing taxable values reduced as well. So that additional $60,000 in homestead exemption is what offset this. So you still saw most people still saw growth in their values of their home, but it was offset by the additional $60,000 in homestead exemption, which in this example would save, if you're looking at the projected taxes, on the average was almost $2,500 the previous year, down to $1,900 this year, about a $550 savings. I'm going to say this, and again, understand these are all predicted, but you're looking at an average savings of about $550. That doesn't mean everybody's going to save that. This is just an example. But the impact, I think it's a good point right here to talk about the impact of the bond. If the bond was to be applied to this, then instead of that being $550, it would be closer to $450. So you're still seeing a huge savings with the passage of the bond if it was to go into effect now. It's just not going to go on the ballot, because it goes on the ballot in November. It won't hit the rolls until 24, 25 should it pass. Next slide, please. So this is an interesting slide as well, because you guys have seen, the district and the board has seen this slide as well in the past, but when you've seen it in the past, it had a $100,000 home tax comparison. But now that the homestead exemption's $100,000, it wasn't really relevant to use a $100,000 value anymore. So moved that to $200,000 and created this slide where you can see the effect of the homestead exemption on the property and the taxes. So in 21-22, $1.31, I think it's interesting too to see how much compression you have seen and the district has seen over the last several years. So if you're at $200,000 in 21-22, your homestead exemption was only $25,000, so your taxable value on that home would have been $175,000, and so you can see the taxes there related to that. In 22-23, the homestead exemption was bumped to $40,000, so you picked up a little extra. So on that same $200,000 value home, you're only paying $160,000, which further reduced your taxes taxes owed on that. And then to this year, that $200,000 home with the homestead exemption, you're only paying taxable value on $100,000. So you can see that it's not only you're seeing compression, but you're also seeing the tax rate lowered and showing the differences there. Next slide, please. And this brings us to the conclusion and the proposed tax rate for this year, 0.7628 for M&O and 0.32 cents for INS to pay debt, for a total tax rate of just over $1.08. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Any questions? Are there any public comments from the public? Okay, thank you. No, we do not have any public comments, so this hearing is ended. We will now move on to communication, and on the agenda, we don't have any. Let's see what we're going on. Okay, consider the approval of consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
President McNeely, I would like to make a motion that we move items E and G from the action agenda to the consent agenda.
Motion's been made and seconded. Anybody got any comments or questions? Okay. We'll now, we're gonna vote, vote to move them first, okay? All in favor of moving? Motion carries. Now we need a motion to pass the consent agenda.
President McNeely, I would like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Motion's made, seconded. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries. We'll now move on to, let me keep up, to our action agenda. A, Mr. Garrison. Defeasing.
Again, good evening, President Neely, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. The item being presented, referenced in the public hearing comments, is an order of defeasance, and this just allows us to authorize the prepayment of the principal that's owed on future bonds. We estimate that we're going to over-collect in our INS budget roughly $2.7 million, $2.8 million, and then we would apply that to future debt, pay down that principal, and again, the result of that would save the district approximately $1.1 million in interest. So again, great opportunity to save money, open up capacity, but this would just be the authorization for us to use that excess revenue in that to pay down that debt.
Any questions? Comments? Okay, do I have a motion in regard approving the order of defeasing and calling certain bonds for redemption and other matters relating to the Duncanville Independent School District Unlimited Tax School Building Bond Series 2015 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made, moved, and seconded. Any questions? Comments? All in favor? Motion carries. We'll move on to B. You're still up. You might as well just stand, pull a chair up behind that thing.
My steps in tonight. This is just the item related to the tax hearing. The proposed tax rate, this mirrors exactly what was presented, a total tax rate of just over $1.08, 0.7628 for M&O, and 0.32 for INS. We have now that we've had, this actually is published in the paper as required, then we have the public hearing, and then once we've had that opportunity, it's our opportunity to formally adopt the rate and then to be able to submit that into the county.
Questions? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question regarding the resolution of the board to set 2023. Can you go over that?
Yes,
with
ma'am,
me?
I sure can.
Yes, sir.
Your question is, I'm assuming regarding the reason it says an increase of 2% when we
Yes,
dropped the rate 17 cents, and it's actually a 13.6% reduction. This is the legislature. I know that we've talked about this and how do we say this respectfully, but this is the legislation. They passed legislation that requires us to do that because we anticipate collecting more revenue than we did the previous year, even though the rate has dropped. And even though, this has to do with the values, and so we anticipate that we may collect a little bit more revenue. So they're saying that we are required by law to say that it's a tax increase when it's clearly not a tax increase. Not only is it not a tax increase, we've decreased the taxes as well as added to the homestead exemption. And so this is just required language and verbiage that they put in place that make it, frankly, makes it really confusing, and they want to have credit for what they've done, and they have. They've applied, the homestead exemption, and they've funneled some money back in, but this is their way of wanting credit. Instead of us saying we've dropped the tax rate, they've added that language, so it does make it very confusing.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Okay, do I have a motion that the property tax rate be decreased by the adoption of a rate of $1.0828 for the general fund and debt service fund, which is effectively a 2% increase in the no new revenue tax rate and a reduction in the overall tax rate of 13.6% compared to the 2022-23 adopted tax rate?
So moved.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Motion carries. Let's see. I told you, just pull a chair up there.
Should be is this the nomination?
No.
Okay, yeah, good.
This is
I've got a couple more on here, so
certified.
I'm making sure I have the right one in front of me. You have the opportunity to nominate a colleague. We actually talked about the appraisal, the certified values, and the Dallas Central Appraisal District is the organization that puts that together. They represent many different cities as well as ISDs in the area. Dallas in particular is large enough that they have a direct appointee from the city as well as the ISD. The remaining cities and municipalities as well as, is it, all right, maybe lost. Am I on this one or?
Go ahead, you're on the
Okay.
correct one.
The remaining cities and ISDs have the opportunity to nominate someone from their jurisdiction to serve on that board. It would go to a vote of the people. There would be an election held between the remaining ISD to see who actually serves on that board. That nomination is due by October 16th. There'll be an election that would be held by December 15th, and then the appointee would be in place and the votes verified in January. So essentially, this is just an opportunity to have one of our own represented. If you so choose to nominate someone, it's just an opportunity to serve on that board pending an election.
Yes, we want to nominate somebody. We want to nominate Cassandra Phillips. Any questions? Okay. Do you have a motion to nominate Cassandra Phillips by approving the said resolution to be considered for membership in the Board of Directors of the Dallas Central Appraisal District?
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Congratulations, motion carried. This is, okay, D.
All right. Now if we can have the slide pop back up here there for a visual. And this is continuing the trend of taxes and certified values and Dallas County or Dallas Central Appraisal District. This is the certified appraisal roll. They provide this to us by July 25th of every year. And so this is what we use again to predict not only our tax rate, but also our revenue stream. And this has been certified by the appraisal district, and we just would, as a board, recommend that we certify the rolls that they provided to us.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry?
What is Freeport estimated loss?
Freeport estimated loss? Is that-
Yes.
It's on the document that was provided.
Sorry, I don't have that.
I don't think that our district's given Freeport in a long
It's
time.
zero, but
long
I think the
time.
question is,
Yeah,
just curious, what does that mean? Freeport
that's when
is
you give like a tax abatement. I mean, you don't, like new companies coming in and you give them a slack on their taxes. Well, I don't know how else to put it, but isn't that what it is?
I believe that is what it is.
I mean, in
and
simple terms.
Right, and I've never been a part of a district that actually even participates in that. And I could be happy to get more information on it to find out exactly what that is. Yes, ma'am.
Sometimes corporations woo us and sometimes we woo corporations and we'll say, we'll give you less tax, and that's like a Freeport thing. Yeah, I think. Is that what it is?
There's CPA over here.
He's going to do some
And it-
research.
Okay.
And I will reiterate too and explain too the main, and I've got it up there on the slide. I know what you're looking at. I don't have that in front of me, but I've seen that. That's on the whole. What we use is that total taxable value for retail and personal property. Even on the other, the market value really doesn't. It's not that it's not important. It just doesn't apply to a lot of what we do as far as developing our budget. We use that certified taxable value. That drives our maximum compressed rate. It also drives our revenue projection. And then in January, we'll actually get our T2 value from that takes out all the frozen, and we'll get that value from the comptroller in January. So,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to certify the appraisal roll for the district from the Dallas Central Appraisal District? Been made and seconded. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Motion carries. Now we'll move on to F. You sure you don't want to do this one too? Want to discuss and consider cancellation of our special election to be held November the 7th, 2023. We opened our board process and we didn't have anybody sign up except for Mrs. Phillips. So with one candidate, then we're going to end up canceling, and that's what we're voting on, cancel the election for November 7th. Not the bond, just the special election, okay? Anybody got any questions on that? It's pretty self-explanatory. If I can understand it, I know a lot of people can't. So, okay. Do I have a motion to cancel the special education previously ordered to be held on November the 7th, 2023 to fill the vacancy for the remainder of the unexpired term on the Board of Trustees, Place 5, because the district has received only one candidate application for the vacancy by the deadline to submit an application?
So moved.
Mr. President, you meant special election, not special education, just for the notes.
Oh,
It's talking about the special
Special
election.
election. I know what I need, but special election. Okay, motion been made and seconded. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Mr. President, may I just make a statement of confirmation? By taking the position that the board just took, Ms. Phillips will be in her seat serving a full term through May 2026. Thank you.
Duly noted.
Okay. H, Panorama Education Survey, over $50,000 purchase. Mrs. Brown and Mrs. Wallace.
All right, good evening, President McNeely, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. Next slide, please. Panorama is a survey tool to help educators gather feedback. We will use the Panorama platform for district-wide surveys. For example, we may use it as a needs assessment to determine strengths and areas for improvement around family and school relationships. We may also use the platform to measure changes in families' attitudes over time. Or we may use it to survey and evaluate the effectiveness of special programs or interventions, as well as gather staff perceptions. Administering surveys consistently in consecutive years allows us to identify important trends. And so, next slide. So the Communications Department, in partnership with other departments, has developed a comprehensive calendar of surveys we anticipate administering this year. And we have worked to minimize overlap for our different audiences. We value feedback, but we don't want to cause survey fatigue in our district either. It's a delicate balance, and we will adjust as necessary. Next slide. On the first surveys that we will administer this year, we will address staff belonging and staff climate. For parents, we want insight into their perception of the school climate. And we have a robust goal this year of having 80% participation from any audience that we survey. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Brown, who will share more about how the SEL department or team is using surveys.
Good evening, Board President McNeely, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. The Panorama program also provides social emotional learning surveys to measure students' needs in addition to providing the staff climate surveys that Ms. Wallace talked about. Panorama helps school districts to understand and act on the feedback from stakeholders by providing them with the data. And so for the past 2 years, counselors have facilitated the completion of this survey with students in the classroom so that they can be successful. Parents are able to opt out of the survey electronically if they don't want their students to participate. And last spring, we had 76% of our students to participate in this survey. Next slide. Surveys are administered to all students in 3rd through 12th grade, once in the fall and once in the spring. Kindergarten through 2nd graders, the teachers complete the survey on the students' behalf, providing their perceptions on the K-2 students' social emotional skills. The survey covers key topics from teacher effectiveness and school climate to student engagement and growth mindset. Counselors are trained on how to use the program, analyze student results, and apply a playbook of strategies to build capacity in our students. On this slide, you see areas that our students were surveyed in on the 22-23 school year. Student engagement measures how attentive are students and how invested they are in class. They are asked questions like, how excited are you about being in this class? How interested are you? Self-efficacy measures how much students believe that they can do something, so their belief in themselves to accomplish a goal. Social awareness measures how they empathize or understand the perspectives of others. And lastly, emotional regulation, how well they can regulate their emotions. Duncanville ISD's data reveals that students need the most support in the areas of self-efficacy and emotional regulation. Students identified as red report no strengths in one of the 4 SEL areas. Those students work with school counselors and the support counselors to develop skills to move to green. This can occur through individual and/or group counseling. Next slide. Panorama not only provides data based on student and staff surveys, but it also provides resources that counselors can use to work with the students to improve their skills in those identified areas. Counselors do not have to create their own lessons to address the identified SEL areas for students, but they can use the Panorama Playbook, which includes over 700 strategies. The strategies focus on improving attendance, behavior, school climate, and other SEL skills, The playbook provides access to age-appropriate lesson plans, interventions, video-guided practices, and interactive activities from leading curriculum providers who specialize in SEL, behavior, literacy, math, and even more. So there are even some content resources with Panorama to help students with their SEL skills. So counselors and classroom teachers have access to Panorama, and they can use them for connection activities, bell ringers, things to get the day started, and so they will be trained as well. Next slide. Social emotional learning continues to be a high need for our students, and so this is why we're asking for the Panorama in addition to the staff survey so that it can support us in both areas with staff and students, and I'll be able to answer any questions you may have. Okay, thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve the renewal of over $50,000 purchase of the Panorama Educational Survey Suite?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any more questions or comments? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, and I think you're still up, aren't you? Okay, we'll move on to information discussion agenda. Kara Solis, update. Ms. Brown?
Good evening again, and tonight I will be presenting, excited to present a new partnership with Duncanville ISD and Care Solace. Next slide. So 1 in 6 youth and 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience mental health disorder each year. Care Solace works alongside school districts to quickly connect students, school staff, and their families to quality mental health and substance use treatment providers. They offer 24/7 support in over 200 languages to be able to support families. When an individual navigates the healthcare system on their own, trying to find their own therapist or counselor, only about 18% are actually successful with booking an appointment. And so with the help of Care Solace, that increases to about 50%. And so this program is used by various school districts in the DFW area, including DeSoto, Red Oak, Midlothian, Mansfield, Crowley, Garland, Waxahachie, to name a few, in addition to other districts around the state. Next slide. So how does it work? Care Solace school counselors would submit referrals for students using the Care Solace online software. And then they would help them, the counselors, the Care Solace team would help them to navigate. They would figure out what type of insurance they have, if they had no insurance at all, what language they speak, how close, within geographic, do they want to find a provider where they live? Do they want to find a provider that's available on weekends? And so they kind of get all of their information from families, and they put together a list of providers, and they help the families to book those appointments. And so oftentimes when counselors do make outside referrals, they have no way of tracking the status of those referrals. So it's hard to determine, if the parent followed through, did they indeed, seek a therapist, seek a counselor, did they get that outside counseling? But with the help of Care Solace, they will be able to track that data in real time. Of course, they won't know the information that the students are sharing with the counselor, but they will be able to see that they are receiving the support that they need. And so this provides equitable access to health care regardless of insurance, private, Medicaid, to support all families. Next slide. Care Solace also provides benefits for our school staff. So it is very confidential for employees, and they too can use it in the same way. Employees and their families can connect with the Care Solace providers, and they will help to find someone that matches their insurance, their needs, again, languages, hours that they're open, geographic region, and so it is confidential. Employees don't have to worry about information being shared, but this is in addition to, it does not replace our current employee assistance program, so this is a supplement on top of that. So now employees would have an additional resource in addition to what is already being provided by our HR department. Next slide. Currently, and I'll be able to answer any question you have at this time, currently with Care Solace, the data shows that 10% of their referrals from the school district that uses them is for employees. So that's just another tool that, about a 10th comes from employee referrals in addition to the student referrals. So I'm hoping this can be a great resource for our district. Are there any questions?
How are we getting the Care Solace information to staff?
So we are setting up training this month. And so our counselors will be trained, our nurses will be trained, the HR department is also setting up training, and so we will be ready to launch as soon as everyone is trained. And so October, Care Solace will be in full effect.
And how are we getting it to parents?
They have a flyer. We have information that we can submit in the district newsletter, and so we can email that information out to parents. And then counselors will also be able to, give hard copies to parents as needed as they make referrals, similar to what they do in Hamilton and Guy and some of the other resources they use. But we're going to make sure that they know it's available via district newsletter and email to all parents. And then, of course, as they make those individual referrals, making sure that they know about it.
Dr. Smith?
And it'll also be on our website, sorry. It'll also be on our website.
Is there a way to use the football stadium for just the I don't know what we would
Yeah,
use.
just other thoughts about how we could expand
Yeah.
the scope of marketing. Yeah, we can research that and look at other social media platforms.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
I love it, thank you.
okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So is this replacing another program?
No, this is new,
Brand new?
it's an addition to, so
Okay,
it's not
I think
replacing
it's
anything.
a wonderful, program. And I'm glad, that you all came up with the idea to offer it.
Thank you.
Because it's definitely, needed. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Questions? Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the bond election update. Dr. Alaska.
Good evening, President McNeely, trustees, and Dr. Smith. I'm happy to share with you this evening the progress we're making in our bond process. Next slide. As you can see from this timeline, we're in our voter education phase. Voter education will be our mission over the next 8 weeks as we work to make sure our stakeholders are fully informed about the bond propositions and voter information. Tonight, I'm going to share with you our communication efforts and the presentations that have taken place and are planned to take place. Next slide. Our bond communication approach is to provide information in multiple modalities to support the diverse needs of our community, our families, and our staff. We also want to pace our communication efforts so that they're ongoing and they build as we move closer to Election Day. Next slide. I believe we're off to a great start with our communication efforts and have already received some positive comments about some of the resources such as our website and our banners that you may see at our campuses. I hope that you've driven around, you've seen those banners at our campuses, and please know that we will be putting up more of these in the coming weeks. We have also executed several other informational efforts, including our video series and our Did You Know series on social media. And since our largest group of registered voters, which is approximately 12,600, are in the age range of 18 to 34, we know that social media is a common mode of communication for this group. I also hope you've received some of our flyers and handouts that are in English and in Spanish. Since we have almost 10,000 registered voters over the age of 65, this group tends to prefer printed materials and publications, and we want to provide that information to them in that way. Again, our goal is to diversify and to pace our communications so that we can build momentum in our education efforts as we move closer to November 7th. Next slide. If you went to the game a couple of weeks ago, which I know several of you did, you probably heard the bond call out a few times and saw the announcement on the scoreboard screen. We have asked our announcers at all athletic events to share a call out several times during a game, and we've placed posters and banners at the stadium and in the main gyms for informational purposes as well. You have also probably noticed how our campuses are informing our community by adding information to their marquees. They have posters up as well and are passing out flyers. They have voter registration cards available in their office as well. Efforts like these are scheduled and spaced out and will continue until Election Day. We have several other efforts we're working on that you should see soon. Our yard signs are due any day now. We also have articles, mailers, and more that will be rolling out in the next few weeks. In October, you'll see in your utilities bill newsletter an article as well. I've received a few questions about banners on our buses. Unfortunately, the law prevents us from putting anything on our buses unless it's affixed, like a vinyl sticker. And due to the cost of this, we've elected to focus more on banners and posters and signs around town. By the end of this week, we will be going full force with our hashtag Panthers Vote effort as our T-shirts arrive, and we will have some wristbands as well. Next slide. Although we're doing a lot and have a lot more planned in our communication efforts, our most significant effort, however, will be through our presentations and events. As you can see from this list, we have several presentations that have taken place already or have been planned, starting with educating our staff. Our senior leadership team paired up and presented to every faculty and every department to make sure they were all fully informed. We also had some great lunch meetings with the Lions Club, the Rotary Club, and hosted our city council and city officials as well. I hope you will come out to Duncan Switch this weekend as we have some of our staff members sharing information at one of the booths, and we are also working to get set up to provide information at the upcoming Hispanic Heritage Celebration. This is not on the list yet up here because it's still in the planning phase, along with several other things that are still in the planning phase as well. Our goal, however, is just simply to inform you about how we are finding every effort to keep our community up to date. Next slide. Outside of the bond initiative, we are also encouraging our Panthers to vote through our registration events and hashtag Panthers Vote efforts. In evaluating our voter data, we know that of our 43,810 registered voters in Duncanville ISD, the whole district, not just the town of Duncanville, with less than 3,000 of those registered voters voted in the last election. And 91% of that 43,000 of the registered voters, they're not parents, staff, or students in our district. Therefore, we know that we need to get more of our internal and external stakeholders engaged in the voting process. Bond or no bond, we want them engaged. Early voting is 42 days away, with Election Day being on November 7th. Next slide. This concludes my update on the bond educational and informational efforts, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
I'm not sure this is a question, but I was thinking about the stakeholders that we have that don't live in Duncanville proper. So if you live in the city of Duncanville, then it helps that you get the mailers through the utility bills.
Right.
But like, I don't live in Duncanville, I live in DeSoto. So I'm just thinking about our parents who may live outside of the city of Duncanville but pay Duncanville school taxes,
Right.
who I don't know what we could do to give them something
So
tangible.
we have a set of mailers that are going to be going out that they will target all of Duncanville ISD.
Okay.
And there will be different groups. There'll be a group for the general population, and then there'll be special mailers for our 65 and plus population.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr.
Thanks.
Alaska.
President McNeely.
Go ahead.
President McNeely, I would like to go back to the Freeport estimated loss and just give a quick update on what that is. It's the amount of value lost to the Freeport inventory exemption. Goods in the state 175 days or less are eligible for an exemption if the owner applies and can prove it up. So if that means anything to you, that is what the Freeport estimated loss is.
I'll look it up too. It's mainly like when things come in for, it doesn't apply to oil, it doesn't apply to vehicles, but like mainly everything parts. And it can't be restored more than 75 days. So that's probably why we don't see that here.
I just reached out to the chief appraiser, so.
Thank you.
That's why she was nominated.
Yeah.
President McNeely.
Okay, we don't have any people, okay, no communication. All right, Looks like that's it. Let's go home.